Hello. At this point, you should be done with craps, so you have at least 5 sources. You should have also done the Fruit Loops activity last week, so you should be clear on the difference between quoting, plagiarizing, and summarizing. But I did want to briefly hit a few things because the notes are so important. When it comes to a research paper, the notes are everything. You're setting yourself up for a strong paper that is not plagiarized and that is well written and highly analytical, and it starts with the notes. So I just want to address a few things. Quote. What is a quote? When you use an author's words word for word, it has quotation marks around it. I'm going to say this now, and I'm going to say this later, and some of you still won't listen to me. But the thing about the quotes, when do you use them? You use them when not only what the author says is important, but how they say it. And not only that, but their name has power, credibility. Why would you go through the effort of quoting something like, let's say, according to Encyclopedia Britannica, the capital of Wisconsin is Madison? Why would you quote that? Yet, some of you are going to quote things like that, straight facts, statistics, things you really don't need to quote. You want to paraphrase. You do want to quote. I want to stress that. You do want to quote. But the thing about quoting, you don't want, this is your writing, this is your paper. I want to see a lot more paraphrasing than I do quoting. Quotes are there, but they shouldn't be a lot of this. I do want to stress, though, if there's a quote, there's this parenthetical citation. If there's not, you did it wrong. Which brings us to paraphrasing. Paraphrasing is taking the essence of what a source says and putting it in your own words. It's usually going to be exactly the same length, virtually, as the actual source. If you have a 3-line quote, you're going to have a 3-line paraphrase. You're going to do, or you should do, a lot of paraphrasing. Not a lot of quoting, a lot of paraphrasing. Because what the source says is important, but how they say it or who they are, anything like that is not a big deal. But I do want to stress a couple of things. You are still citing paraphrasing. Furthermore, the best way to paraphrase is when you're doing your notes. Don't copy and paste and then paraphrase later. Paraphrase directly into your notes. There are reasons for this. Number one, you're distancing yourself 2 times from potential plagiarism because you're going to paraphrase when you do your notes and you're going to paraphrase when you actually write your essay. And secondly, when you write it in your own words, in your notes, you're internalizing it. It's not just a bunch of facts. It begins to mean something to you right there. But I do want to stress you still cite the paraphrasing. Which brings us to summarizing. Summarizing, you use your own words to sum up the main points of your source. It is much shorter than the actual source. Example, Harry Potter is the story of a boy who comes to realize he is actually a wizard and comes of age and faces many trials and tribulations at a boarding school for wizards like him. I've just summarized a 7-volume, many thousand-page novel in 1 sentence. Summarizing, you take something big, you make it shorter. Here, you summarize because the audience only needs to know the gist of what your source says. I want to stress this. The way you summarize is the same as paraphrasing, but you do not need to cite your summaries. You got to cite quotes. You got to cite paraphrasing. You got to cite statistics. You got to cite facts that are not common knowledge, but you do not need to cite summaries. Now, with that said, at the end of this week, your research notes are due. It's hard to give you, this is exactly what I expect, because different people take notes different ways. And I want you to do what works for you. But there are some things that are expected. There are some things that are not expected, and there are some things I straight up don't want to see. So what do I expect from the research notes? I want to see at least 3 full pages of notes. Not a page and a half, not even 2.5 pages, 3 full pages. You have 3 full pages of notes. Odds are you've got at least 6 pages of a paper. And that's at the very least passable. I'm looking for a lot of paraphrasing, summarizing, and only the occasional quote. I want to see organization. That means I want to be able to look at it and see, yeah, this person knows where the source, where this quote or information comes from. And I'm looking for you to begin to take others' ideas and synthesize them into your own point of view. I don't expect complete sentences. I don't expect 10 plus pages of notes. I don't expect perfect spelling and grammar. I don't expect complete and fully fleshed out ideas. I don't expect paragraphs. I expect a thesis statement later, but not in the notes. And you can handwrite or type. That's up to you. And these are the things I don't want to see. I don't want to see copy and paste palooza. It will be evident if you've done that. I don't want to see fewer than 3 pages. I don't want to see somebody else's words without quotes around them. And I don't want to see a disorganized mess where it's evident you have no idea where any of this information comes from. So, at the end of this week, there are 2 things that are due. One is the thesis statement, which I go over in a separate PowerPoint, and the second thing are the research notes. I do want to mention, by the way, you could take more notes later. This is just, okay, you've got enough to get started. You can get more sources, you can get more notes. A research paper is a journey, and it doesn't end until the final paper is turned in, and you can keep doing more research, and you can keep taking more notes. But I see this, and I know you've got enough to get started. More than anything, this is not a finished product. It's a signpost. It gives me the confidence to say you're where you should be, and you're well on your way. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or message me or whatever. All right, so research notes. Don't copy and paste. It's stupid. You're asking for trouble. Goodbye.